folks. Let's see if this is working. I've done all kinds of technical testing, and I am hoping that the tech gods are with us now. So I am seeing that we are live. Let me click over there and mute myself so I don't need to listen to myself. Not at all an enjoyable process. Okay, sounds good. I think it's working. So Peter, you're first off the mark, at least in terms of who I can see. I know there's other people here who are logging in. Elaine, just let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm going to do a couple of little tests here as I move from slide to slide just to make sure things are working. And if I go to this slide, can you hear me? So I just switched to other slides with some vineyard scenes. Just want to make sure that you could hear me when I switched, because I would love to not be just a talking head here tonight, but to use the full technology here. I'm getting some thumbs up, but I just want to see in the comments that that worked. I'm going to switch again so you know you're going to enjoy this conversation. Can you hear me now as I say, why don't you click on that old share button? And more importantly, tell people why you're enjoying this conversation. Okay, good. Darren says, very loud and clear, all appears a-okay. Always get nervous with that. But I'm so glad. So let me just go back here. So even when I'm off on other slides, you are still hearing me talk over those slides. Okay, so please do share this conversation. All good. Oh, I just almost don't want to get too happy about it because the tech gods will come down and say, you've got too arrogant. We're going to punish you. Anyway, tonight we have lots of great topics. So let me give you an overview as I give you something more visually appealing to look at. As I tell you, these are the topics that we're going to talk about tonight. So, 1, why are winemakers wary of cannabis producers? It's not what you might think. What exactly is minerality in wine? Is it a taste? Is it a feeling? Or is it a bogus concept to make wine more inaccessible? What is a new wine group doing to support a balanced life? And where we're going to start tonight is, what's the latest on the Sonoma wildfires? So, welcome everybody. This used to be the Sunday Sipper Club. Now it's the Wednesday Winos. And I'm so glad that you're joining me here tonight. I'm Natalie McLean, editor of Canada's largest wine review site, where I also offer online video wine courses that are pretty darn popular, and I hope you'll join me for one. You can try a free taste or sample at nataliemclean.com/class. We gather here every second Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, that's Toronto, New York time, to talk about some really juicy wine topics. So I'm going back to you guys to make sure we are still connected and all's good. Patty and Paul are here from Virginia. Hello, my most loyal listeners, or viewers, I should say, right? So I've got lots of course students here tonight, which is amazing and great. Peter Nielsen from Windsor, Ontario. Elaine is here from Calgary. Darren is in the house from Ontario. Let's see. Elaine says, it says this is a test at the top of the video comments. Okay, so, but that's okay. Does the title say on the video, Wildfires in Wine Country and Cannabis Wines? That's what it should say over top my head. Not sure why it's saying that. This is a test. Oh well. I'll look into that later. One tech issue at a time. Good Lord. All right. So, I'm so glad I just go solo on these things. And I don't have to deal with time zones of people in South Africa and Australia. I love interviewing them, believe me. And I still do. And you can listen to that on my podcast, and I post the videos, but this is just so much less of a huge technical risk doing it this way. All right, that's what it says. Good, Peter. All right, let's get going. And for those of you who are watching this on the replay, as I know many of you do, please comment. Please tell me where you're logging in from. What's the weather like? Hey, guys who are already here. Peter, Elaine, Darren, Patty, Paul, what is the weather like where you are tonight? I'd love to know. I'm going to take a sip on my Bordeaux. We were tasting Bordeaux's in my private Facebook group tonight for students only. We found some really great bargain price Bordeaux. I know that seems like an oxymoron, but it is possible. The one I like best is $16. And my course students know which one it is. Tease, tease, tease. Not so teasy. So this, in the next week or so, I'm going to relaunch my course so you can join it. But to do that, I'm going to have a free wine class that you can listen in on, whether you buy the course or not. And thanks to your feedback, I'm calling it the 5 Wine and Food Pairing Mistakes That Can Ruin Your Dinner and How to Fix Them Forever. So that's the title of the free class. And at the end of that, after I sort of teach you and give you lots of good juicy tips and feedback, I'm going to tell you about the course, which is the Wine Smart course, a full-bodied framework to taste, pair, and buy wine like a pro. And you're going to love it. I know you are. All right. Darren says his weather is overcast and cool, but still above 0 degrees. Hopefully the white stuff passes us by. Yes. Peter, cold and rainy in Essex County. Leaves are falling. He doesn't like it. Okay. Darren, are you in North Bay? Yes. North Bay, Ontario, by the way. Thank you. You read my mind. I was just trying to geolocate you exactly. I know you're in Ontario. All right, guys, let's get going. So let me give you some more interesting things to look at. Maybe some food pictures that have nothing to do with what I'm saying, but just gives a little break visually from the talking head. Thanks for the thumbs up. Please do share. All right, let's talk about those wildfires. Please log in the comments. What have you been hearing about the California wildfires? It just seems so devastating, especially the Kincaid fire that has broken out this week. You know, it was 2017 and we were talking about these wines. The red wines are now hitting the shelves of the 2017 vintage. And here we are again. So let me give you the details that I have researched and gathered. So wildfires, the damage in Sonoma and Napa from the Kincaid fire is roughly so far 74,000 acres since it started a week ago, last Wednesday. But this is mostly in wooded areas and mountains, and not so much in the grapevines and wineries. Now, that's not to say that the wineries have been given a pass. They haven't. But I'm just saying that the majority of the fires, from what I'm reading, have occurred in secluded areas. 30% containment as of today, Wednesday, October 30th, and it could take weeks to extinguish. That is just really darn scary. But here's some interesting things, and I'm reading from a CBS television report website. Grapes don't burn. Obviously, I don't know if you watched that one with Keanu Reeves, that movie. What was it called? A Walk in something. And they throw a fire out to the vineyards and the leaves are green. The grapes are green. All this vegetation is green. It's not going to light on fire. But here's the thing. For the grapes right now in Sonoma, 95% of them are harvested or were harvested by the third week of September, according to Michael Haney, Executive Director of the Sonoma County Vintners. So they're in tanks and well protected. So that's kind of good. However, here's the devastations. 185,000 people in Sonoma have been evacuated. There are 2 wineries that have had significant destruction. Fieldstone Winery and Soda Rock Winery. And let me check in with you. Jim Clark has joined us. Hello, Jim. We're talking about the Sonoma wildfires, so please post if you've heard anything about those. Any reports? Are you following this news? Tom Dean is in the house. Hello, Tom. Also, let me know what the weather's like where you are. Thank goodness, we are not contending with wildfires for the majority of people who are logging in here, right? But I'd like to know what the weather is. And let's look at some chocolate while I keep talking. I just want to give you something visually to look at. So let me compare this to the October 2017 Tubbs fire in California. It killed 22 people and destroyed the Paradise Ridge Winery in Santa Rosa. So let's put this in context. About 80% of U.S. wine comes from California. It's the fourth largest producer of wine in the world. Sales of $40 billion, $1.5 billion in exports. And this wine generates another $7.2 billion in California tourism. People come to visit the wineries. So why are these wildfires happening now? Well, some, of course, argue climate change, and I would tend to put myself in that camp. So what is that? It's a combination of parched vegetation, high winds, and low humidity. According to CBS, since the 1970s, California wildfires have increased 5-fold. That is just astounding. Over the past decade, the average temperatures have risen 2 degrees Fahrenheit. But here's what's happened at the same time. There's been a moisture deficit. So what is that? It's the difference between the amount of water that's actually in the atmosphere and the amount of water it can hold. And so that has not sort of caught up with the increase in average temperature. So what does that mean? Lower relative humidity causes brushes vegetation to dry out faster, and that just creates kindling to burn where the fire starts, according to CBS. Plus, you get wind gusts of 70 miles per hour. And what they're saying is that the wine country wildfires, they can see those from San Francisco. This is like an hour and a half drive from Sonoma, Napa. They've had minimal rain for the last 5 months. Again, that's just fuel on this kindling. So let me come back to you. All right, you're in Waterloo, Tom. Yes, I know. You're rainy and cold. Typical October Halloween weather. So yeah. So Tom, I know you're at Waterloo University. My son is home, Ryan's home, doing a work term here in Ottawa at a software company in Canada. He loves being home because the food is free and the laundry gets done. Not that I do it. But yeah, I'm so glad you could join me. Now let me just switch up the pictures or come back to you actually. So, yeah, so I just find that fascinating and devastating at the same time that these things are going on. You know, the whole thing about wine is that you have to surrender. Wine is an agricultural product so dependent on Mother Nature. I used to work in Procter & Gamble, P&G, as a brand manager. And so think Pringles, Duncan Hines, Crisco, lots of food products. And those were uniform. The control variable was high. And then here I am in wine where it just seems out of your control. You have to deal with what Mother Nature gives you. Not just, oh, we had low rains or we had an early spring frost, but these wildfires. It makes you think, I am not in control. The only thing I can control is how I respond and react, which is a good metaphor for life and any sort of emotional crisis. And yet, here we are, safe and sound, not in those wildfires. So what can we do? Let me give you a few suggestions if you're thinking like, oh God, I see these pictures on the news about these fires. What can I do? First, open a bottle or 3 of Sonoma wines. Support them. Buy Sonoma wine. Make a conscious effort. Share it with others and tell them why you're opening this bottle. And it's not just because they're going through a tough time. This is great wine. One of my favorites, La Crema Pinot Noir from Sonoma. Love that wine. Gonna buy a case this weekend just to support them, right? What else can we do? There are fundraising campaigns going on right now. And you can Google that and to find various fundraising campaigns. Look into those and participate for sure. Also, don't cancel plans to visit wine country. So what happens when we hear about these wildfires is that everybody goes, oh, better not go. But often the fires are not attacking right where you want to go. You're not going to be coughing from smoke. It's often just remotely located, and yet they desperately need you to still go to wine country, because that is what supports wine sales, all the wine jobs, all the spin-off jobs for restaurants. So don't cancel your plans and actually make plans to go. Some people say, oh, they're having a tough enough time, I don't want to overburden them. Not the case. They want and welcome you. All right, so that's that topic. Let's go back to you. Thomas Schoen has joined. Thomas, what's in your glass? I would love to know, guys. What wines have you discovered this week that you've really loved? Elaine says, we finally have a little break from the freeze here in Calgary. Oh my gosh, had no fall. I know. Elaine is in Calgary. Did you get snow? I think I saw that on the news. That is insane. Winnipeg did. Winnipeg, Manitoba. So we've got wildfires in California, then we've got snow in the west coast of Canada. It's crazy times, isn't it? And I'm drinking a budget price Bordeaux for $25. It's really good. Okay, let's go on to topic 2. All right, give you something better to look at. Let me switch your screen. Let's see. Why don't you look at tomatoes? Yes, tomatoes, that would be good. Okay, let me go to my notes. My second topic is cannabis and wine. So here's the thing. Cannabis, of course, is legal throughout Canada. Yay. And I say yay because I've come around to that. I thought, oh, why do we need to do this? But I've really read up on the issue. It's not just a matter of taking something off a black market that is truly not harmful in moderation and making more tax dollars and whatever, but it's about freedom of choice as well. And I think that we can make intelligent decisions about cannabis just as we do wine. So now cannabis is also, as you all know, legal in about 30 states, either in the United States, either medically and or recreationally. Here's the controversy. Cannabis producers would like to use, or are starting to use, wine appellations on their packaging. So Napa Valley Cannabis or Napa Valley CBD or THC, which are the two psychoactive ingredients. Here's the argument. It is an agricultural product or plant that is based very much on place, just like wine is, or grapevines. However, winemakers are really seriously against this because they built up brand names like Napa Valley and Sonoma and Niagara and the Okanagan and many others in relation to wine and not any other agricultural product. In fact, often it's a protected trademark. So, what are we to do about that? Oh, let me just check in with you to make sure. Oh, Elaine, you've had 3 snowfalls. Oh, my dear. Ugh, Calgary. I'm never moving there. I thought Ottawa was bad enough. Okay, so how do you survive? What are your survival tactics, Elaine? I'm taking another sip of my Bordeaux. All right. So, the other thing that cannabis producers are doing, of course, is creating de-alcoholized wines with cannabis. And they're launching in the US this fall. So let me clarify. That begins that this product begins as a wine with alcohol that's removed, so it's de-alcoholized, and then the cannabis is added. And traditionally, de-alcoholized wines are, I find, neutered of their aroma and taste. However, these wines with cannabis added are a different animal. There's two methods to add cannabis: infusion or emulsion. Infusion means that the cannabis plant is steeped in the wine as if you're making tea. Whereas emulsions, the cannabis is an oil-based, water-soluble liquid that blends in with the wine and is more easily mixed together with it. And in fact, there's nano-emulsion technology that creates minuscule drops of cannabis oil so that it doesn't separate out from the wine. And of course, a lot of people are looking at micro dosages these days. So instead of looking at the alcohol level on your label of wine, you might be looking for CBD or THC levels. A few more notes before I open it back up to you. Absorption, of course, of CBD or THC varies by person and format. So smoking cannabis, for instance, has an immediate impact. Under the tongue sprays, sublingual, 15 to 30 minutes before you feel the effect. Edibles, 1 to 2 hours. Liquids, about an hour. So some that are marketing these wines, they're saying they're giving a body high and a head high that is highly bioavailable. And that's where the absorption varies by person comes into play. We all have receptors that vary by person, by biology, of how much of this CBD or THC we absorb and how fast, which I find fascinating, actually. But here's more controversy. Can these de-alcoholized wines even use the word wine? Because federally in the U.S., cannabis is not legal. It's only state by state that have granted legality, and each one of them have different labeling requirements. So that makes it extra tricky, I would say. And back to you. Okay, good. You're still with me. And let me just add a few more things. California winery owner Francis Ford Coppola, also a movie director, by the way, produces cannabis products under the label Sana. There has been a weed and wine symposium for 3 years, highly popular in Santa Rosa, California. And in Toronto, Alana Bernstein, who operates the company Viv and Oak, has launched an alcohol-free sparkling rosé of Merlot and Grenache with 25 milligrams each of CBD and THC, offered at $38 retail, set to debut in September. I need to get a hold of her. I want to try this. Oh my gosh. So, by the way, I also have a podcast, as some of you know, the Unreserved Wine Talk. And coming up in a couple weeks, Jamie Evans, who is a herb sommelier. So she combines wine and cannabis. She's out of California. I know you'll love that talk. So please log in for that. Gus Clemens is in the house, my favorite guy from Texas who writes about wine. Extra tricky, exactly. Okay. All right. Let me see if I've covered everything on that topic. I think I have. So there it is about, been running my hands through my hair, looking disheveled, but there's cannabis and wine. Do you guys have any more comments about that topic? So we've covered California wildfires, cannabis, and now we're going to go on to minerality. I would love to know. Just put it out there in the comments. Don't worry if you're right or wrong. How do you define or how do you think of minerality? We're not going to get super technical. I'm going to give you some great tips from an article I read this week. But man, this term gets batted around so much. I just wanted to to deal with it up front and get your opinion about what you might be tasting. Minerality. All right, let's see if I can get something. Oh, there's some pretty pictures. Look at some vegetables while I talk about minerality. Okay, here we go. You know, I just discovered the website daily750.com. I think it's for the wine industry, but I'm finding the articles are really well researched and written. So I'm going to include a link to the article here, and I always convert these into podcasts, so in the show notes. So let me summarize what they're saying about minerality. So often soil types are listed in a tasting note for a wine, or maybe even on the back of a bottle label. So you'll see schist and clay and loam and all kinds, limestone, of course, all kinds of different types of soils. What does that mean? Does it really have any relevance for the wine? And even some wines are named for their soils. So there's wineries like Chalk Hill, Terra Rossa, Magma. They're named for their soils, so something must be going on, right? But really, is it? So here's what the daily.750.com article says. A small amount of material from the soil is drawn up through the grapevine's roots and deposited in the fruit and its juice, where it lingers through vinification. The popular notion is that, say, molecules of flint and chalk can be tasted when we drink these wines, a literal expression of place, carried straight through to our taste buds. Not so, my friends. As the article continues, it quotes geologist Alex Maltman from his book. It's not possible for us to taste minerals from the soil when we drink wine. The roots only absorb water, and any substances that make it into the plant have to be dissolved in water to be nutrients for the plants. Most of the mineral nutrients taken in by vines come from what he calls humus. It's not the takeout or the hummus that you might get. Maybe it's pronounced humus. Anyway, not what we want to eat with takeout, but it's the decayed biological matter that forms around, that comprises about 4% of vineyard soil. And of course, this can be supplemented with fertilizer. So as Maltman writes, as water enters vine roots, it encounters a series of chemical gradients, etc., biological screens that select which of the dissolved ions can pass through and be transported into the vines. And he further says geological materials, rocks, are mostly tasteless and odorless. So what are we doing when we're saying wine is tastes or has great minerality? So Michael Tordiff, the article goes on to say, of the Mondale Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia, says people can taste minerals that are biologically relevant, like sodium, salt, calcium, magnesium, zinc. But the flavor of wine is so complex. Can some of the minerals that we're actually discussing be perceived? I wrote about this in my book, but Randall Graham, who I love, a winemaker and founder of Bonnie Doon Vineyard in California, actually put rocks into wine in the barrel as it was fermenting. And it was not a great experiment, but at least it was worthwhile knowing. And the FDA, the Federal Bureau of Alcohol and Firearms, such an odd mix, came to him and prevented him from doing further experiments because I think some arsenic was starting to emerge. Not that he intended that. But what Graham said in his experiments were, quote, disastrous, but that there was an exposure to minerals that created the sensation of minerality. So I think minerality is often a feeling more than a taste. I don't know if it's like those Lick-O-Maid things we used to get as kids that would explode and pop on our tongues when we're young, little explosive little flavors. But I think it's more a feeling than a taste. Back to Maltman, the geologist, who says geology can influence wine, but it's more in the way that a particular soil composition drains, so that the vine roots have to fight harder, or how it retains or reflects the sun's heat. That's more relevant. And let's come back to you. Dave Head has rejoined us again. Okay, I'm glad, Elaine, that these photos are making you hungry. Darren says, both a taste and a mouthfeel to me for minerality. If you've had a sip of salt water, you've had a good idea what minerality is like. Yeah. And that's what Maltman is saying. We can pick up sodium. It really has a taste. But when you get beyond that, for other minerals, they're less taste observant, if you will. Gus says, acidity plays a major part. Yes. And acidity, Gus, I think, and minerality have often been confused. So saline, Assyrtiko, the white grape from Greece, is a great example. It's not actually minerals. It's an illusion, sensation of chalk and minerals and salt. But that does not mean it's actually minerals, because the grapes absorb water, not minerals. We're right on the same page. And I think you've put it more eloquently and succinctly, Gus. Great, great summary. Let me see if I have any more notes for you. And no, those are lab experiments. That's not going to be interesting for you to look at. What else can you look at? Maybe I'll move you to here. Okay. To summarize on minerality, there are 3 definitions of minerality. So minerality can mean the actual geological minerals that make up the rocks in the ground, according to this 750 article. 2, it can refer to nutrient minerals that the plant tries to absorb, like potassium. Or 3, a flavor descriptor. But that's where we get lost or confused. As a flavor descriptor, when you say this wine has great minerality, is it a smell? Is it a taste? Is it a mouthfeel? Is it acidity? Is it aroma? Or is it some elusive combination of all of it? That's what I would say. An elusive combination of all of it. Let's just compare for a moment. We can say that a wine smells like ripe cherries. Does that mean cherries were added to the wine? No, of course not. What that means, in my mind, is that the wine mimics the aromas of cherries. And how does it do that? Because wine is the ultimate chameleon fruit. I like that quote. I need to write it down. Wine is the ultimate chameleon fruit. It can molecularly mimic the structures that give off the aromas of cherries in cherries themselves, but in the wine. So we think, wow, this smells like cherries. Did they crush cherries into this wine? No, they did not. But this chameleon wine is giving off cherry. So I think it can do the same for minerality and in turn stone, flint, clay, loam, limestone, whatever you have there. That's my conclusion. And also, no cherries were harmed in the making of this broadcast. All right, back to you. Great news. Okay, so Peter says, our son just messaged us from San Francisco. They just lifted the evacuation order from Healdsburg, which is in the heart of Napa Valley, to the coast. So most of the wine areas have been spared. Oh, yes, great news. Oh, thank you for the update, Peter. I agree, Elaine. Wonderful news, Tom. Whew. Gus, wine tastes like wine. Our descriptive words are metaphors. Thanks for keeping us on point, Gus, as always. I had on my podcast, Gus was recently a guest on my podcast. So you should all go listen because he has some wonderful, wonderful stories. Let me see if I can change to something more interesting on the visuals. I'm just going to come back to you for a moment. Oh, I'm running my hands through my hair too much. All right. Hey, guys. So I'm going on for my fourth and final topic tonight. So if you would like to be part of the testers for my beta wine class, I'm going to be launching a free wine class, the 5 wine and food pairing mistakes you're making that can ruin your dinner and how to fix them forever. I'll be launching that in a week or so from now. But before that, I'm going to be doing a beta version. So if you want to give me feedback on a video that I record privately, and I will send you the link. It will not be available publicly. Please let me know in the comments or email me if you have my email address, because I would like to know if you want to be in on that. I would really value your participation, your feedback, your thoughts. I am a very adaptable human being. I listen to feedback. And also on that, if you're enjoying this chat, take a moment to share this podcast right now. It doesn't matter if people can't join us, your friends and followers can't join us right now. They can watch the replay. What's more meaningful is if you tell them why you think they might be interested in this podcast. So whether it's an update on the California wildfires, or what does minerality mean, or how about those new wines that are infused with cannabis? Or our next topic, a balanced life and wine. Please do share it with them. All right. So let me come back to you. All right, Elaine, thank you so much. Gus, yes, gotcha. All right, a little taste of my Bordeaux, and then on to our fourth and final topic. Elaine, my course student, I'm tasting that Pirouette, and it is really coming into its own now that it's been 3 hours decanted. Bordeaux, $24. You cannot beat that. Okay. All right, let me go into finding some pictures for you to watch. I just think you've seen that. Maybe outdoor fleeting summer scenes. Let me know at any time if you cannot hear me. I'm so happy the tech's working tonight. Okay. Fourth and final topic. I will be posting this link in below and in the show notes for the podcast, but it's abalancedglass.com. So this is a site that is for people who work in the wine industry, but I think that for those of us who love wine, who drink wine frequently, regularly, I think all of us have an interest in how to balance our love of wine with a healthy lifestyle. And I love the approach of this website. It is designed for wine growers, vintners, wine retailers, sommeliers, writers, but I just think it has a relevance for a broader audience who loves wine and drinks wine regularly and wants to know, am I keeping it all in check? Is my consumption balanced? Am I living a full life? Because to me, a full life includes the pleasure of wine, but also not overindulging. And I am a moth to a flame, as I have expressed in the past. Let me come back to you to be full surface here. My father was an alcoholic. my mother and grandmother were teachers, so I know the power of knowledge from my mother and grandmother and the power of indiscriminate use of something. So I am always drawn to, that's why I'm always surfacing health studies. I am like, got my antenna up all the time for what is the latest scientific research telling us, and how can we live a balanced and healthy life with wine as part of it. So this to me is very interesting, but let me go back and start sharing with you again. Just looking at, you can try some chocolate now. So the objective of this site is for people to say, hey, I love wine. I either work in the wine industry or I love wine as a regular part of my life. So how do I keep that in balance? abalancedglass.com. I encourage you to check it out. So, when abstinence is not a priority or realistic, I can't stop tasting wine, and yet I want to live a healthy life. So what do I do? And I love the tips that they have in this post. They were interviewed by Food and Wine magazine in the United States, not to be confused with Food and Drink by LCBO. So they have a weekly email that will give you tips on balancing your consumption. And it's not a scold, it's not a stop now or you'll ruin your family. They're really good tips. So let me just share with you a few things. Taking care of yourself. So first of all, tip 1, be honest with where you are with your consumption. Everyone's different, and there's no judgment. We all know that men and women have different moderation guides. I've heard 1 to 2 to 3 glasses of wine for women, 2 to 4 glasses for men. But we just need to come to grips with where we want to be in life and how we want to enjoy life and how we want to wake up in the morning. Their tip 2, change one thing. Here's a neat thing, and it's not about getting all wine police with where you're at, but I love this tip. Count the glasses you drink. For example, decant a half a bottle so you don't drink the whole thing. Put the glass down between sips. Drink 1 or 2 glasses of wine to every glass of water. I love that. Simple things, because I think just with, as with wine, so with food, we can mindlessly eat. We can go through a whole bag, a large bag of potato chips while watching TV. When you're mindful, that's where the change comes with anything, not just food and wine, but all kinds of things in our lives. Get connected. There's lots of groups who promote or who support moderation and abstinence, if that's the way you want to go, abstinence, but moderation. And you want to seek out that kind of support. Here's what I love. Breathe. Breath work. And if you haven't heard of this, get turned on to it. Whether you go for an app like Calm, I've got no affiliation with them, or just deep breathing, deep belly breaths. That tells you to relax. The predator is gone, the race is run, you can relax. We've got primal urges to protect, to run, to be fearful. It's what we descend from a long line of people who stayed alive in the jungle, and we don't need to do that anymore. You just breathe. Big, deep belly breaths, just 4 to 5 of them. You will change your physiology and your mindset. And let me come back to you. All right, I keep mucking up my hair. Back to you. All right, Gus, Wine is the liquid part of a good meal. Tom says, I say I'm a one glass at dinner French Canadian, but my wife seems to drink the last half of my glass before I notice. That must be my moderation plan. Love it. Okay, guys. So I've given you some tips. I'm going to post some more links in the discussion afterwards. All of this will be summarized, edited in my podcast, Unreserved Wine Talk. If you want the condensed version with all the links, I hope you'll tune in then. If you want to be part of my beta version of my new webinar, 5 wine and food pairing mistakes you're making that can ruin your dinner and how to fix them forever, post in the comments right now or email me. One of the two or both. All right, guys, I love this. I absolutely love getting together with you every 2 weeks. I'll be back with you in another 2 weeks. Post what topics you want to hear about. And if you're watching the replay, please let us know what you're drinking, what Bordeaux's you love, what wines you've discovered, or anything, any topic or comment in relation to what we've been talking about. Bye for now, and good night. Take care.